컨퍼런스를 통해 알게 된 에비슨 선교사의 손녀딸을 만나기 위해 토론토 근교에 살고 있는 앤 여사의 집을 방문하게 되었습니다. 에비슨 선교사는 1860년 영국 출신으로 캐나다로 이주 온 이후 토론토 대학 교수와 의사를 역임하면서 토론토 시장의 주치의를 맡고 있었을 정도로 그 당시 주류 사회의 중심 인물이었습니다. 그러던 에비슨 선교사는 1892년에 안식년으로 토론토를 방문 중이었던 조선 선교사 언더우드를 강연회에서 만나게 되었습니다.
One day he heard a speaker in a church here in Toronto. The speaker was Dr. Horace Underwood, and that speaker said there was a crying need in the country Korea, where he was working, for doctors, for Western medicine. So it was that he decided that he was meant to work in Korea. He only had one trouble, and that was that his wife did not want to go. So he decided he would pray and that she should pray too. So the story that my family tells is that they prayed all night on their knees, and by the morning she was so tired and her knees were so sore that she said she would go to Korea. My grandfather arrived in 1893, and my father was born in Busan just a week after he arrived. And he always felt himself to be Korean. He was Canadian, British stock, and his family viewed themselves as being British, but my father always thought he was Korean. He was invited, my grandfather was invited to speak in Carnegie Hall in New York City. He was speaking about the need of a big Western type hospital. There were lots of little clinics in Seoul, but there was no major hospital. And so he was speaking about this need, and he decided that he would speak so that that anyone in the very back row of the back balcony would be able to hear him. His name was Louis Severance, and he was very rich. And he said, "How much would you need?" And my grandfather said, "Well, I could do a lot with $10,000, which was a huge amount of money in those days. Mr. Severance took out his checkbook and wrote a check for $10,000 and gave it to my grandfather immediately. Some months or perhaps a year after he had arrived in Seoul, was aware that there was an epidemic on its way, a cholera epidemic from China. So they got together all the medical people who were in small hospitals all over the city, and they published large posters saying how to avoid getting the disease. It was simple matters like not drinking the water, which it was public water and would get contaminated from this disease. But eventually, as all epidemics do, the cholera epidemic finished. And when it was over, the King of Korea called my grandfather to him, and he said, "Dr. Avison, my people and I are grateful for what you have done to help us during this epidemic, and I would like to reward you." What he said was, "I would like butchers to be made men." At that time in Korea, which was a Buddhist country, the butchers were an underclass, so that when a boy became a man, he was not permitted to take his hair, which was in a long braid like all boys at the time, and put it on top of his head in a top knot.
에비슨 선교사는 단순히 복음과 의술만을 전한 것이 아니었습니다. 그 당시 조선시대의 악습이었던 그런 신분 차별을 없애는 운동도 하셨고, 연희 전문학교와 황성 기독교 청년회를 통해서 어떤 조선 청년들에 대한 애국 계몽 운동에도 앞장서셨던 분입니다. 그분의 조선 사랑에 대한 단면을 보여준 한 이야기가 있습니다.
(1893년 9월) 백정 출신의 박서춘은 에비슨의 고마움을 깨닫고 그에게 자신의 아들 박서양을 맡기며 의사로서 키워줄 것을 어렵게 부탁했고, 에비슨은 백정의 아들이었던 박서양을 맡아서 조선 최초의 근대의학대학인 제중원에서 학업을 시작하도록 도와주었습니다. 박서양은 1908년 마침내 제중원 제1회 졸업생 7명 중 하나로 조선 최초의 근대식 의사가 되었습니다.